System seems quite.
Hello, welcome everybody to the meeting. I'd like to remind everybody the meeting is being recorded and uploaded to YouTube. Item 1, do we have any apologies?
Yes, Chair, I've received apologies from Councillor Bidwell. Are there any others to note? Thank you. Oh, and sorry, and Councillor Harrison is joining online. Thank you.
And I believe we have Councillor O'Regan also join online.
We don't yet, but I'm hoping that we will.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, do we have any declarations of interest for the agenda tonight from anyone? No. Okay, item 3 will be the minutes. Can I ask if there's any matters arising or points of accuracy from the minutes? Okay. Then I propose the minutes are adopted as a correct record. And can I ask for a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Can I ask for a show of hands to accept the minutes, please? Thank you. Item 4 is urgent items of business. Do we have any urgent items of business?
No, Chair, none notified.
Item 5 is notice of public speaking. Do we have any applications for public speaking?
Yes, Chair. So we've had application from Manoj Lakshmikanta to speak on 2 items on the agenda. So we'll allow 6 minutes for public speaking. Manoj, I don't know if you want to speak now. I think it's best if we go before the taxi items. if that's okay with you, Chair.
Yes, that's fine with me.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. Before I provide updates on the key trade developments, I urge you all to carefully consider tonight's decision to prevent further strain on our already struggling trade. Our policy is driven by three key areas. Age, on the vehicle age policy, which is built tonight, to be Euro 6 vehicles license eliminated under 5 years of age limit of replacement of our vehicles. Secondly is knowledge of the area. This was on the consultation last year. We agreed to retain, but on the page 33, section 55, mentioned that to take a 6-year retake test requirement for, so we decided to ask to be for drivers entry the trade, for new drivers actually. Number 3 is certificate of good conduct. We recommend aligning with the age of requirement with other councils by increasing from the age of 10 to 18. So this is it really on our policy for tonight. The updates we have is WhatsApp group, wheelchair accessible jobs, has been created a collaboration with the IBCAS. So we have a wheelchair accessible WhatsApp group. Then number 5 is drivers agreed to have a 2 badge. So when we have process used to be 1, we are happy with that. Number 6 is about Kings Road, bus lane in Reading. I contact Reading, but I don't have any response yet. So I think the chair is supposed to email as well. On tonight, fees in charge. Drivers are requested to freeze 12 months at least on the vehicle renewal, supported by consultation. We mentioned this on the consultation. To number 8, we have outside waitress rank. This remains significant issue and needs urgent consultation on that resolution if you find something there, because even with the parking ticket, it's not enough. We have always a problem there. And number 9 is we find this on the policy is practical driving assessment. We're proposing revising to the next agenda meeting the 6-year retake requirement on the page 32, section 53.2. And number 10 is Uber, as we keep mentioned. They've been using our taxi ranks, and I emailed to TfL with the photos them using, and the answer I got an email. I can share this with the Moyer or chair. They say to local offices should take action on that. And I have emailed Councillor Bidwell about the transport, about Uber, what we can do to help the trade. So I haven't not received any response yet. So your support is essential for the future of our trade. Thank you. That's all. Is any question?
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Councillor Haradu.
Thank you, Chair. So regarding the age of vehicles policy, which is in page 18 of our BFC taxi policy, it states the age is applicable only for at first application. So there's no age mention for the renewal. So are you aware of it? If not, can one of the officers clarify my understanding?
On the policy say age of
Yeah,
50
it's only for the first application when somebody is applying for the first time.
first, yeah.
Yeah, when with renewal, I can't see any age limit in the policy as it stands
The
today.
policy, I mean, if I want to replace my vehicle, I could buy a car under 5 years. And we say this last time that it's very expensive under 5 years. For Air Emission 6 from 2016-17 is more affordable, so it's at least 10 grand cheaper, and they do the jobs. So it's less free and all this stuff. So the age, I mean, the new policy comes out to 29-30. They say it will be Air Emission 6. So we're trying to push now. So we got nearly 22 cars are Air Emission 5 and half Air Emission 6. So we have total of 45 vehicles and 1 Air Emission 4. So those cars are getting more expensive to repair than changed vehicles, maybe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Vicky, she has her hand up online. I believe she was going to provide some clarity or an answer.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I've actually run some research this afternoon with regards to the vehicle types. So currently we have 45 Hackneys in total. We have 1 Euro 4 and 1 Euro and 16 Euro 5s and 28 Euro 6s. So the total figures across the whole of the council with regards to Hackneys and private hire, including private hire dispensation and home to school vehicles, out of the total number of 187 vehicles, only 1 of them is Euro 3, 12 are Euro 4, 41 are Euro 5 and 133 are Euro 6. The bits with regards to the age of vehicle and it being only from the age of 5 has been in place since 2018 onwards, because it's in the last 2 Bracknell Forest guidance documents before this policy was introduced last year. The year before now. So I'm not sure why it now needs to be changed, but obviously that's something for the committee to make a decision on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions at all? No. Okay.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
very
Thank
much.
you.
So we'll move on to item number 6, which is the Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Licensing Policy. And I'm going to ask Mark Groves, Lead Licensing Officer, to present the report to us.
Thank you very much, Chair. The current policy has been brought back to the committee this evening due to 3 minor amendments being made to the policy, which were unfortunately too late to be included in the last policy when it was brought forward due to the DFT not bringing it out in time for the committee. Those points we're going to clarify are the certificate of good conduct. There's a minor variation to fire extinguishers and also to the time limits in which licensees have to report convictions, etc., to the council. If you go to the fire extinguishers one first, because that's the easiest one to take out, is that guidance from the Chief of the Fire Service has recommended that any licensed authority who does not provide training to their licensees in relation to the use of fire extinguishers for car fires are to encourage that those are not carried anymore unless specific training is provided, because the highway code also states that if the car is on fire, then to get out, leave the car to burn as long as everyone is safe. Cars are replaceable, people are not. So therefore, they've recommended that if we don't provide any particular training, then that should be removed from any conditions within any licensing policy. At this time, Bracknell Forest do not provide any training to any of the drivers. So therefore, we're recommending that that condition is removed from the policy. Therefore, then the drivers would not have to carry a fire extinguisher in the vehicle unless they chose to do so, in which they would have to provide the training themselves. The second one is in relation to the time limits for the reporting of convictions and fixed penalty notices. That has been reduced to 48 hours. That's come from the Department for Transport. That was brought in when the previous policy or the current policy was being brought before members, and unfortunately that was not the time frame to be able to do it. So now we're bringing it forward to ask that this is recommended that the time frame is reduced now to 48 hours for which licensees have to report offences to the licensing team. And then the second one is to clarify points around the certificate of good conduct. The current wording was not very clear for the licensee, and we've had many questions through trade meetings and emails from members of the trade to clarify these points. The current guidance for the IOL has recommended that the age limit is raised to 18. However, the licensing team would strongly ask members not to bring the age limit to 18 from the age of 10. And that is solely because a British citizen, when they apply for their license, will have to do an enhanced DBS certificate. That will show every criminal record they have from the age of 10. If a foreign national enters the United Kingdom and is granted UK citizenship, say, for example, from the age of 19, the only offences that would be covered would be any offence they've committed in the UK since the age of 19. It would not cover any time between the age of 10 and the age of 19. Therefore, a UK citizen would be at a disadvantage because their whole criminal career would be determined, and we would then make a decision whether they were fit and proper to hold a licence. We would not be able to do that with a foreign national if all we had to go on was a DBS from the age of 19. They could have committed serious offences before that for which we would not be able to deem whether they were fit and proper. So the licensing team are strongly asking the members not to raise the age to 18. And those are the three amendments to the policy tonight. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I ask if there's any questions on the report? Yep, Councillor Zaharuddin.
Thank you, Officer Mark, for clarifying my questions on age. Appreciate it. And thanks, Damien, for communication, for all your comms around that topic. I have a question. I'm just curious to understand, since the implementation of this policy in December 2023, how many applicants who meet the criteria of having lived abroad from age of 10 for more than 3 months have been able to provide an accurate COGC confirming convictions or absence of convictions from the age of 10 rather than from the age of 18? Because there's lots of countries either got freedom around, there are countries who got freedom around 1970 or got bifurcated, and geographical changes happened during that time. So I'm just curious to understand how this is currently working practically.
Yes, I believe Vicky, who's online, is going to come in on this.
Yeah, I've only been made aware of one applicant or one renewal that wasn't able to provide the certificate of good conduct. I contacted the embassy directly and managed to get in writing that they would not provide one, and it was dealt with, and the badge was reissued or issued before the expiry of the previous one straight away. So actually, in that whole time frame, I've only had one where it's been an issue. Everyone else has provided as per our normal requests.
Just a supplementary question on that. So did the embassy confirm they cannot provide from specific age, or they cannot provide at all?
They did not have the records at all. However, that applicant also provided another certificate of good conduct from another country. So they'd been in 2 countries before coming to the UK. So they had provided it from the second country, but not the first one.
Thank you for that. So can I ask a supplementary question?
Yes, you can.
What arrangements do we do we have as a licensing team in place where I guess since you only got one application, there's likely to be more. I'm pretty sure about it. So what arrangements are in place to handle this situation? Because obviously there's going to be quite a few cases. Those will fall under this category. So could you clarify that, please?
Sorry, Councillor, that's one that I'm aware of. In the whole 10 years that I've worked in licensing, I've never had it as an issue beforehand. So 1 in 10 years as opposed to, yeah, sorry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
But if there are any issues, obviously, if they contact the licensing team, we do look at each application on its own merits. So we would take that into account and do whatever we can to help the applicant.
That's great. Thank you, Vicky, for your answers. And Mark would like to come in on this as well.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to help the councillors, there's also a inclusion now for asylum seekers into the certificate of good conduct as well, because obviously having fled their home country, they would not be able to supply a certificate of good conduct, which we fully recognise that account. However, all that we do ask is that they supply a certificate from all countries that they've resided at on their route to the United Kingdom. So if they've stayed there for more than 3 months, for example, in Italy or France or whatever, we would just ask them to supply a certificate of conduct from that country just to cover that period of time whilst they were on transit to the United Kingdom. But we appreciate that they wouldn't supply one from their home country. So we've clarified that in the package to take that into account.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions on the report? Yep, Councillor Allen.
So it's just going back on the certificate of good conduct. I think what Vicky was saying was that it previously hasn't been an issue for any of the other applicants. So I'm presuming there have been many other applicants who have provided a certificate of good conduct, but it's only been a problem once. Was that essentially what you were saying?
Yes, correct.
So, I mean, are we talking tens of 20s or per year or?
Yeah, quite possibly. As I said, in 10 years plus of licensing, I've only ever had it once where they've not been able to provide it at all. And it's fairly regular that we ask for a certificate of good conduct and receive them straight away. We had one, I'm trying to think which country it was from. I think it was Abu Dhabi, before Christmas, and it was actually returned to us within a day, which I found confusing considering they normally take a few weeks. So we actually contacted the embassy to make sure that they had provided it and it hadn't been forged at all, which it hadn't. But yeah, it was abnormal for it to come back within a day, as you can imagine. So they're not as difficult as some people are led to believe.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions in the room? Okay. So I would like to move the recommendations set out at 2.1 and 2.9 on page 5. Oh, sorry, 2.1 to 2.9 on page 5. Can I ask for a seconder, please? Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Smith. Thank you very much. Can I ask if the seconder wishes to speak at all on the recommendations?
Thank you, Chair.
No. Okay, that's fine. And I do not wish to speak either on the recommendations. So can I ask for a vote on the recommendations? Oh, sorry. Does any other member wish to speak at all? No. Okay. Can I ask for a vote, please, on the recommendations? Everybody in favour to please raise their hand. Okay. That's unanimous. Thank you. So we'll now move on to item 7, which is the Public Protection Partnership fees and charges for 2025 to 2026. And I'm going to ask Maura Fraser, the Policy and Governance Officer, to present the report to us.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. Members will recall that we brought a paper setting out the proposed fees to the October meeting. Those fees had been proposed by the Joint Public Protection Committee at their meeting, which also took place in October. Members agreed at the October Licensing Committee meeting that we would go out to consultation on a handful of the fees, largely around the vehicle fees and the operator fees, which we have a statutory duty to undertake that consultation. We undertook the consultation in the form that was agreed at the meeting and also in line with the legislation. We've had 2 responses to the consultation, both from members of the trade, one from Manage on behalf of the Hackney Trade Association and also from one of the private hire drivers. The proposal was to increase those fees by 3%, which is in line with the increase in staffing costs that the Public Protection Partnership is undergoing, which would increase the hourly rate of our fees from £67 to £69. Manage has asked again this evening that members give consideration to freezing those fees. Members will be aware that all fees in the licensing arena are set on a cost recovery basis. So in other words, we charge the taxi trade what it costs us to process their licensing applications. If members are minded to freeze the fees, and that's entirely within your gift, then obviously we would need to have some form of subsidy to meet the deficit that would grow in the licensing budget. We're happy to answer any questions that members may have.
Do any members have any questions? No. So if there's no questions, I would like to move the recommendations set out at 2.1 to 2.2 on page 109. Can I ask for a seconder, please? Yes, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Can I ask if the seconder wishes to speak at all on the recommendations? Thank you. Can I ask if any other member wishes to speak on this? Can I ask for a vote, please, on the recommendations? Everybody in favour to please raise their hands. Thank you. That was unanimous. So item 8 is the Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Trade Meeting update. And I'm going to ask Maura Fraser, the Policy and Governance Officer, to present the report on this.
Thank you, Chairman. The report sets out a summary of the discussion of the meeting that took place on the 13th of January, which was attended by the Vice Chairman of this committee, various officers, as well as 4 members of the trade. A full set of those notes from that meeting have also been circulated to the committee as well as to the trade outside of that meeting, obviously. Manage has reiterated a number of the matters that he raised at the meeting here this evening, and we have already covered much of what was discussed as part of the discussions around the fees and charges and the policy. Colleagues in the Highways team are finalising the wording on the signs that the trade have requested at Waitrose, which would indicate to their customers that we accept credit cards, and we hope that those will be erected soon. There's been some discussion around doing the same at the station, but until we can finalise arrangements, because it's on private land and not owned by the council, we need to get various permissions in place before we'd be able to do that. Manage also updated members this evening, and we're very pleased to hear that they have had ongoing dialogue around sharing of jobs when it comes to wheelchair accessible vehicles, because when people get in calls, obviously, if their vehicle isn't a wheelchair accessible, they have worked out a mechanism by the sounds of things about how they would share that information and get the vehicles to those customers. As Manage has already indicated, and the Vice Chairman has written to Reading Borough Council about the use of the bus lanes, we don't really think that Reading are likely to change their mind and allow taxis from outside of the area to use those lanes, but we will continue to speak with them about it. And that's really all from that meeting, unless members have any queries about the notes or anything that's in the report this evening.
Do any members have any questions on the report? No. Okay. And just to note, this item is for note only. Item 9 is mobile and park home site update. I'm going to ask Maura Fraser again, Policy and Governance Officer, to present the report.
Chairman, I'm presenting this report this evening on behalf of our colleagues in the private sector housing team, and I know very little about it. So if there are any questions that I'm not able to answer, I'm afraid I'm going to have to give you a written response to them. Councillor Gore asked at the previous meeting and perhaps the meeting before that as well, and that we bring a report. And it's not an area of licensing, I think, that members often come across or discuss. So we're very pleased to bring this report to you. The report compiles a detailed set of information setting out about the number of sites within the borough, information about the fees, the legislative framework, and information about licensing conditions and the inspection regimes as well as information about fit and proper persons in terms of the licensing regime, which was a relatively new introduction a couple of years ago. I'm happy to take any questions, but I do hope that the report sets out everything that members do wish to know about that area of work.
Thank you. Do any members have any questions? Yes, Councillor Gore.
There are a number of sites within Bracknell Forest, and some of them are extremely well run, and others require more attention, should we say. I'm wondering how, on the sites that require more attention, the ability to respond to need there is quantified. So, for example, the ones that have more requirement in terms of questions being answered or problems with the site, is there generally a delegated officer per site, or does it go into one pool, or how's that managed?
So we have been without our lead officer for the housing team for a period of time. Mary left us at the sort of middle of last year, and we did have difficulties recruiting to that role. It's quite a specialised role, but we're very pleased to say that we have recruited somebody, and they'll be starting with us in mid-February. And they are an expert. They're an existing lead officer in this area, so we would hope that they would be the person that would take on the responsibility for collating that information going forward. And then in terms of the sites, we're about to start the annual round of inspections, because each of the sites are looked at each year. So the officers are about to start, especially with the new officers starting in mid-February, and those will hopefully be completed quite soon. I'm guessing the sites that need more attention will have more thorough visits, because the officers will be aware of the sites where we've had a lot of complaints.
Thank you. Do you have another question, Councillor Gore?
Thank you, Chair. The question I have, it really relates to fire safety, and I notice you've put quite a bit of information about fire safety in a situation where residents on site do not feel safe because they do not believe they have adequate fire protection in terms of evacuation places and up-to-date working equipment, etc., etc. How is that managed in terms of the PPP team? Are they liaising directly with the site manager to sort it out, or is it down to the council, or is it down to the councillor?
In terms of fire safety, the vast majority of regulations are actually within the remit of the Fire Authority, not the Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service. So our officers are working closely with them, and we would hope to have news around that quite soon. They're working closely with the Fire Authority to put standards in place and a regime and the ability for the fire service to go along and make sure that those risk assessments are in place and testing the risk assessments, because, as I say, the enforcement powers sit with the Fire Authority and not us.
Yes, Councillor Gore.
Yes, sorry, another supplementary on that. One of the main things that's raised with me is fire safety, and I appreciate that it is another party's responsibility in the end to get it done. But in the meantime, where residents do not feel safe and want to have answers that have perhaps been a long time coming, what would your message be in terms of what they could do, how they could accelerate matters, who could assist them to feel safer on their sites?
Just to say that when we do inspections, we do joint inspections with the fire authority, and they would be able to raise them, but they can continue to raise their concerns with us, and we will discuss those with the fire authority.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, I appreciate the procedure, but it's the action I'm looking for in term. So, for example, I'll give you an example, if that makes it easier. A site in the borough has been raising fire issues with me for quite some time now, and they've been reported and reported, and we're still in a position where they haven't got a satisfactory result. So what I'm trying to get at is, I know there's a procedure, I know everyone's working hard to implement the procedure, but you know, a bit like the LA situation, we don't want something in the interim happening when we've or where they have and others have issued help warnings before we get there. So I want to make sure that we have it's on a priority, it's on an urgent priority, rather than when the person gets here and when they settle in and then when they get round to the fire authority. It needs to be something that's on the top of the list and marked as urgent, particularly in this case of this one area that I'm thinking of that has no evacuation place to go, has a lot of residents on there, and has a lot of very worried residents on there. Thank you.
Just to say, I have got a note from Rosalind about it, but I wouldn't be able to disclose anything about a particular site in a public meeting, but we can have that discussion with you outside of the meeting.
Thank you. Do any other members have any other questions on this? Okay. Just to note also, this item is for note only. So we'll move on to item 10, which is the film classification policy. And I'm going to ask Mark Groves, the lead licensing officer, to present the report.
Thank you very much, Chair. As members will be aware that the British Board of Film Classification classifies all films majoritarily shown in the UK, United Kingdom this day and age. Very rarely do licensed authorities get asked to do this, but this is a role that we undertake. And it is just to where a film is being asked to be reclassified because they don't agree with what the BBFC have said, or it's for an independent party that may request the licensing authority to reclassify a film on their behalf. I have never had to do it, and I don't know if anyone has, so majority of the time.
Actually, as chair of licensing about 7 or 8 years ago, I actually had to classify a film as chair of licensing. The licensing authority didn't do it themselves. I actually had to do it as chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor. There you go, there's the one. And also the licensing authority may be asked to classify a film in relation to film festivals covering a specific period of time, a one-off screening of a film, or a trailer for a film. Those are the only times that we do. And it's just included in the policy, and we're just asking that members adopt the policy and ask for it to be moved forward to council for adoption within the procedures. Thank you very much.
Can I ask if there's any questions on the report? So I would like to move the recommendation set out at 2.1 on page 135. And can I ask for a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Allen. Can I ask if Councillor Allen would like to speak to this?
No, thank you.
Okay. Can I go on to a vote then on the, oh, sorry, did anybody else want to speak at all? Can I ask for a vote then on the recommendations? Everybody in favour, can you please raise your hand? Thank you. So we'll move on to item 11, which is the licensing panel decision. I'm going to ask Lizzie Rich to present the report, and this is for note only.
Thank you, Chair. This is really short, really. These are just the minutes of a licensing panel heard earlier this month for a private hire vehicle licence for the committee to note this evening. I would take the opportunity to encourage members to please volunteer for panel meetings when they come up to make sure we're able to hear panels within a timely manner and using as many members as possible to spread the load. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you everybody for attending the meeting, and I would like to now close the meeting.